Hey everyone, today we're going to learn about slope formula and using coordinates to figure out your slope. So I have posted a little image here that says that slope is your M. It means rise over run, which means you go up and then you go over. You count how many if it was on a graph. And then if you have coordinates, you're going to do the rise, which is the change in y. So y2 minus y1. And then the change in x is x2 minus x1. And what I mean by that, and if you look over here at this example, and we have two coordinates. So the first coordinate, -3, 8, is labeled with an x1 and a y1. Okay, that the ones just mean it's our first coordinate. Okay, but that is our x1, which is -3, and our y1, which is 8. Remember that x comma y. Okay, everything comes first with x in our coordinate. So the second coordinate is labeled x2 and y2. So x2 would be 2 and y2 would be -11. Okay, so those labeling them every time that you see a coordinate like this, labeling them so that you know where to put them in your slope formula. This nice example right below our coordinates gives it to you color-coded, so maybe that might be more helpful to you as you're learning it. But again, we're going to put our y's on top. It's really important that your y's will go on top. So they grabbed y2, which is -11, and they said -8, which was your y1. You're always going to use a subtraction sign. It shows it right up here in this formula. It shows it in this one, but you'll always use a subtraction sign. Okay, so like the denominator right here, x2 is 2 minus x1. Well, here's your minus sign that is in your formula right here. Okay, and then your x1 is -3, so minusing -3. The great part is you can put this in your calculator, this whole thing. Okay, or if you don't have a yellow calculator because you're not at school or you don't have one at your home, that's fine. You can do it in Desmos. It will do the whole thing for you. Remember when we did subtracting with fractions a couple of days ago? Well, it was gearing you up so you could set this in your Desmos in order to solve. So let me go to Desmos. And let me go to the other one, actually, because I can see my bottom screen here. So we know that if we type this in, it will give you -19/5. So let's do another example. Let's say 1, 2, and my next coordinates will be -3, 7. Okay, so you can label x1, y1, x2, y2 above it or below it. I like to do it either way, depending on a paper, if you have room above or below, but I'll label it below on this one. So that's the x1 and the y1, and this is my x2 and my y2. Let me see if I can make that into a better 2. Okay. So my slope formula says y2 over y1. So first I'm going to draw my fraction bar line. y2 is 7 minus y1, which is my 2. And my x2, -3, minus my x1, which is 1. Now I can go into Desmos and type that in, or you can do it by hand in your head, but we had 7 minus 2 and -3 minus 1. So I'm just making sure I had the right numbers. And over here it says -1.25. I do want it in a fraction. And the reason slope is easier to do on a graph or in an equation with a fraction. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to write -5/4 as my answer. All right, so let's do another example, but this is basically what we're doing today. If given two coordinates, we're going to plug into the formula. Okay, so here is another -4, 0, and my second coordinate will be -2, -3. Alrighty, so again, I'm going to write my x1 and my y1, and I would really encourage you to do this until you get really amazing at putting it in. It just helps you set it up correctly. So my y2 is -3 minus my y1 of 0, and I'm going to draw my fraction bar. X2 is -2 minus my x1, which is -4. And we're going to see what this equals for your slope. Remember, slope is just the slant of your graph. Like how far is it slanted? Has it really, really steep? Or is it not so bad? So -3 minus 0. Let me clear all here. -3 minus 0. And then we had -2 minus -4. -2 minus -4. Don't forget to put negative in front of that 4. So again, it gives us a decimal over here on the right-hand side. I'm going to change it to a fraction. -3/2 is my answer. And why I'm keeping it a fraction? Because remember, when I go to graph it, I can go down 3 and over 2. Or if it was a positive answer, I would go up the amount of times it says, and then I'd go over. So I'm going to give you on the next one a problem to solve. Okay, so see if you can solve this one with coordinates 1, 4 and -1. No, let's do -7. Get my eraser. -7, 0. Okay. I will help you label x1, y1, and x2, y2. So now please solve it on your own and then come back to the video whenever you get done and we'll see if you got it right. So you can pause it. All right, welcome back. To solve here, I'm going to put that m equals y2 minus y1. So 0 minus 4 and x2 minus x1. So -7 minus 1. And I'm going to go to Desmos. Let me hit clear all. 0 minus 4. And it was -7 minus 1. -7 minus 1. So 1/2. Did you get 1/2? If you did, great. If you did not, what happened? Did you put x's over y's on accident? Because that's the most common problem. Okay, or did you solve it correctly? Did you just subtract wrong? Did you forget a negative? Something like that. Okay, those are other common problems. Okay, so let's do one more together. All right, so there's two options you can have, and it sometimes will happen. If I had 1, 3, and negative, well, let's leave it a positive. And let's have 1, -2. So here's my x1, y1, and my x2, y2. Sorry, those look really scribbly. So if I go and plug them into my equation, I have -2 minus 3 and 1 minus 1. Okay. I can do that by hand. I can do it in the Desmos. Let me put it in Desmos, and I'll show you by hand also. And then it was 1 minus 1 on the bottom. So if you look over here on the right-hand side, Desmos gives you a word as an answer. It says undefined. Okay, so what does that mean, Miss Smiley? Well, what we had was a -5 on the numerator for our answer, and we had 1 minus 1 is 0. Anytime you try to divide by 0, well, Desmos gave you the word undefined. And in your calculator, if you had a yellow calculator or maybe your phone calculator, it might say error, cannot divide by 0. Okay, those are what you might see, but it is technically called an undefined slope. Okay, you might get an error message you might get one that says can't divide, well, that's a horrible division symbol, by 0 as your message. Okay, but that would be what one of those look like. Now, another option that might happen is that your coordinate is -3, 7, 4, 7. So we still have our x1 and our y1 and our x2 and our y2. When we go to solve, 7 minus 7, so y2 minus y1, and 4 minus -3. Okay, so I'm going to put it in Desmos. Let me clear all. 7 minus 7, and the denominator is 4 minus -3. All right, so Desmos over here on the right-hand side gives me a 0 as my answer. You can have a 0 slope. So let's go back and look at this. 7 minus 7 is 0. 4 minus -3, and you actually add those together, so you get 7. So your calculator is absolutely correct. It should show you 0. If you're on a yellow calculator, like a TI calculator, then it will give you absolutely, it will say just 0 as your answer. If you did Desmos, look over here. It said equal to 0. You can have a 0 slope. There's a positive slope, a negative slope, undefined, which is what we saw over on our left-hand side, and you can have a 0 slope. Okay? A 0 slope on a graph looks like this. Okay, there's your line. It's a horizontal line. A undefined slope on a graph would be a vertical line. Okay? Not really a great vertical line, but you can tell that it's a vertical line, right? So you might have a question that looks like where you have an undefined, an error, or a 0. All right, and so don't be scared to get one of those. It's more than likely correct. Make sure you set these up correctly. This is how, I don't know how much I can stress that the y's have to go over the x's. Use this example to help you. It's color-coded if that makes it easier for you. All right, and if you have questions, get in touch with me or Mr. Joel. Thank you.